Okay, so we are live and over to you, Firdaus.
Okay. Hello. A very good evening to one and all present here. Welcome to all the students for the Diksharam, that's the student induction program of Jai Hind College Autonomous. It's been a very enriching week with so many sessions being conducted online and offline for the student induction program. And today we are having another session on nature and the world. To complete Durudu the nature part, we have none other than a renowned speaker, Dr. Devangi Chachit from the Botany Department. Ma'am is a assistant professor in the botany department at Jai Hind College. Ma'am has presented papers at national level and international level. She's attended many research conferences, seminars, workshops, refresher programs, training and orientation sessions. So, and she's also heading the Nature Club. She's the coordinator for Nature Club at Jai Hind College. And who better to have a speaker who has a wonderful, enriching knowledge in botany and heading the Nature Club with us. So, I thank you, Devangi ma'am, for accepting our invitation for addressing the students. I hand over the entire podium to Devangi ma'am for her session.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for all the kind words. Uh, Hello, students. So, I'm going to be talking about nature. Uh, there is so much to talk about nature. As a botanist, we have a different perspective. I'm fully aware that the students are here from all the fields, and that means there are students from arts, that is humanities, we have students from commerce, we have students from sciences, and of course students who have not opted for botany are also going to be there. So welcome each and every one of you. Here we are not going to have a monologue. I'm going to have a kind of a discussion with you all, and I am not going to be talking about what I know about nature, but there are some topics which are genuinely very interesting about our sheer existence. So let's begin with we as human and where do we stand in the nature. So when we talk about nature in which our school level, also at our school level we have learned that nature is composed of the biotic and the abiotic factors. Abiotic factors would mean all the physical factors, that means all wind, air, sunlight, even the soil will be a part of abiotic factors, and so on. And then of course we have the biotic factors where we have plants, we have animals, and of course we have human beings. So, nature as a whole can be further divided into, according to the new understanding, we are dividing nature into four parts, and those four parts are said to be dependent on each other. Now, the minute I say dependence, I mean that we cannot do without each other. And this is the whole idea about taking this lecture and making you aware that in case if we want to grow, if we want to do something, we want to construct, we want to develop and be considered as one of the developed countries rather than constantly being called as underdeveloped or being developed countries, we are going to talk about, we will have to talk about coexistence. So existence is, yes, very much dependent because we all are existing. But for explaining this concept of existence and coexistence, there are two ways in which we can exist. Very recently, there was a forward post from WhatsApp. I usually ignore forwards, and I believe all of you do the same. We just see, "Arey, kisi ka forward hai," and we simply ignore that and we move ahead. But this caught my attention. I don't know why. So there was this very beautiful write up which was written, and it was something about very basic thing. I'm 100% sure all of you have played musical chair. When you play musical chair, we are told that, let's say for example, we are 9 of us, and or rather we are 10 of us, and we have these 9 chairs kept in front of us, and we are told that whoever is the person who does not get a chair after the music stops, will be considered out, and that person will no longer be participating in the team or the game. And this continues till the last person is there, one person is remaining, who the person who got the chair in the last round will win. This definitely proves existence. It says that yes, I am existing. But there is one more way of playing this game, and that was one of a very, very pretty thing which I read. The thing was that in a few cultures, specifically Japanese culture, they had said in the WhatsApp message, and they said that they play this, they also play musical chair, they also have this game, but the rules are slightly different. The rule is that the person who will get a chair will be out, and the person who does not get a chair in the round when the music stops will be the winner. See, the problem here is also the same. We don't want only one person to win. And that is why what they do is they hug each other, they hold each other, and they ensure that all of them exist together. All of them sit on the chair together. In the end, only one chair is left, and all of them try and sit on that chair. The game is same, the idea is different. The idea is to exist together, and that is exactly what we need to do when we are looking at nature too. There are many students who may say that this is very, very basic, we all know that we are supposed to be taking care of nature, and there are different ways in which we can conserve nature, and it's all known. Absolutely. But the question is, how many of us actually do it? How many of us are actually ensuring that we are conserving nature? How many of us are actually putting in or making even one small tiny change so that we don't become greedy, we don't become people who want everything but not wanting to share something? And that is what this lecture is all about. So I won't be sharing any PowerPoint, or I won't be talking about something or showing you some slides. I will want to show you a video at the end, and that will possibly tell us exactly about what exactly are our responsibilities towards nature. But more or less, I will talk about the mutual dependence what we have on nature, and how and why should we be taking care of nature. If you all have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I believe that chat will be activated for you all at maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes in the lecture, last 5 minutes or 10 minutes in the class. So please jot down all the questions you have, and we will definitely take up all the questions we get in the chat box. So, as I said before, entire nature overall has been divided into four orders, or four groups. There's something called physical order, biological order or bio order, animal order, and human order. Now we've separated humans because if I look at nature without intervention of humans, nature is very wholesome. Nature is very unique. Why am I saying that? Because if I give you a very simple example, if you go to any forest, it may not be even a proper forest, it may be a garden. But unless and until now imagine this garden, and then imagine a garden with a human intervention. So the first scenario is where there is a garden, possibly, or I would call it a forest, or I would just call it a area where there are too many plants and animals which are there. Okay, animals need not be always four-legged animals, it could be insects too. So we have a undisturbed ecosystem. This is called ecosystem. So when I have an undisturbed ecosystem, what I will have is a lot of soil on which these plants are growing. Then there are some insects which are possibly dependent on these plants. There will be some tiny animals like maybe rabbits or deers at times. and then I will have higher order animals depending on the size of my area. When this is undisturbed, what I will have is enough amounts of soil, enough amounts of plants growing on them, enough in the sense that it is sufficient for things which are dependent on the soil and the plants. It will never happen that there are too many animals and no plants, or too many plants and no soil. They will compete. They will follow Darwin's laws. They will follow the nature's law. They will ensure that they are following and they are getting selected naturally. The survival of the fittest will be followed. They will ensure, or the nature will ensure, that whatever is suitable for survival only will be left. The other things are eradicated, the other things are removed in the process. And removed, by removed I mean they are going to die, they are not going to be able to survive. And these dead and decaying material also will also be taken care of by the microorganisms, may it be bacteria, may it be fungi, and so on. And they are going to decompose these dying matter and release the nutrients which are going to be required by the ones which are growing, the ones which are living. And this is going to continue. Now let's bring the human inside. The minute the human comes in, we want soil because we want to construct a house. We want soil because we want to grow what we want to have, and not something which is growing there naturally. So we are going to remove what is growing naturally and we are going to replace it by some foreign material for that soil. Now, because we are removing something which is growing naturally over there, we are going to be disturbing the animals which are dependent, like maybe some small insects. The larger insects or larger group of animals are going to be dependent on those insects because they are their food. And ultimately we are going to create a problem for larger animals too. But we are very happy, we are going to live. Students, I'm telling you that this is not the way of existence, because we are just existing, we are not coexisting. The difference between coexistence and existence, mere existence, is that when we are going into a area, we are supposed to merge in that area and not stand out in that area. With respect to living, when you are studying, you are supposed to stand out, okay? But when you are living in nature, you are supposed to merge in nature. We are not supposed to be greedy. The problem with us is we are greedy. We are wanting everything for ourselves, and that is not correct, right? And that is how we are actually disturbing nature. Now I'm sure you all are staying in Mumbai, or if not staying in Mumbai, you all have migrated to Mumbai from various parts of the country or maybe abroad. When we are saying that we live in Mumbai, there are several transitions which are happening even in Mumbai. If you are born and brought up in Mumbai also, you will realize that Mumbai is very steadily but is growing, and is growing at a very high pace. It's a steady pace, but it's a very high pace. The growth is by destruction. We are making a sea link, we are making a sea route, and we are ensuring that we are very well connected. Absolutely, that is necessary. Agreed. But in order to do so, what are we doing? What are we losing? Think about that. What we are losing is, we are losing the flora of sea. There are plants which grow in sea. There are animals which are surviving in sea. We are losing them. And the minute we say that because we are trying to do something, some animal or some plants or some physical matter in the nature is getting disturbed, we are not existing along with something, we are only existing. So my job today is to tell you how we can coexist, or how we can have mutual relation rather than me myself being there and projecting it as I'm important, right? I'm not saying we are not important. I'm absolutely saying we are very important. But at the same time, we need to understand that not only me who is important, it is each one of us is important. And when I say each one of us, I mean I am talking about the soil, I'm talking about sunlight, I'm talking about air, I'm talking about rains, I'm also talking about plants, I'm talking about animals as well, right? I'm 100% sure there are so many of you who do not like insects. We don't like mosquitoes, we don't want cockroaches, we don't want snakes. Yes, I don't want to live with them in my house, agreed. But they have a certain role in nature to play. I just cannot remove them from the cycle because I, as an individual, do not like them. We need to ensure that they are existing because they have a very, very important role to play in nature. And that is what we are going to talk about. So we have something which is called interconnectedness. What exactly do we mean by interconnectedness? I already told you that if there is soil, plants are dependent on that soil. Animals are dependent on plants. Human beings are dependent on plants and animals, and we need soil as well. So we are interconnected. These four dots which we have made are going to be interconnected, and they have to be interconnected to exist. We need to, for ensuring that we are connected, we need to regulate the usage. By saying so, I don't say that we don't have enough or we have too much of population, and to ensure that we all have food to eat, we should just do whatever we can. No, it's wrong to have so much of population, firstly. So we need to control that population. And second, once that is in control, we will be able to give food to everyone. Each and everybody will get food. Each and every person on the planet will get food. Does it mean that before we control the population, we don't get food? No. We have a lot of food. But then we also store food, right? We all did that during pandemic. The minute we got a chance to go out, we stored food material and we kept it in our house. We didn't care whether everybody else was getting it or not. This is what I'm talking about, is selfishness. We need to leave this out of us and then behave, then become a part of nature. We will be able to become one with nature. Mutual fulfillment, if we are taking things from nature, we need to give it back also. We just cannot keep taking it. When once we are taking something from nature, have be happy, be grateful to nature that it is giving you so much. Ensure that you pay back. We cannot pay back nature in the form of money. What we need to do is we need to pay them back in the form of nature itself. Grow more plants, ensure that you are taking care of them, ensure that you are ensuring that it is very well being taken care of. Sensitize more people that we need to do something about nature. We need to have clean nature. We need to have nature in its raw phase, no, raw stage. We need to do this, otherwise we will not be able to survive. So nature, because it is collected, or rather it is made up of four units which we spoke about, that is physical, biological, animal and human. Of course, we spoke about the relation it has, and it is supposed to be maintained like that. Also, we need to consider space in our existence. Space is something which is infinite, whereas we as humans, nature also is finite, and we have to be aware about it. We are using fuels like there is no tomorrow, and literally there is no tomorrow, because After a few years, I am I think I'm being too optimistic in saying to few years. I believe it is going to be few months now that we are going to be out of fuel. The petrol prices are going high as a rocket. We are going to pay more price, and only people who can afford it will buy petrol from possibly after 6 months or a year. How are we going to travel? Big question. We need to think about it, and we really need to give it a big time thought, that we need to understand how we are going to come and meet at all these places. So yes, we know that space is unlimited, there is no activity happening in space, but we are supposed to carry out activity, we are supposed to be part of nature, we are supposed to be part of space, we are making that place, we have to be actively involved in making it up, right? So we have to be existing, as I said, in coexistence. And I believe I have taken good 50 minutes. I will just want to share one slide and was one video which will possibly take 3 minutes. uh, I believe I can directly share a video file. No, I think no. But just give me 1 second, please. Yeah, I can share my screen. Can you all see my screen? I believe you will have to. Yes. Thank you so much. So this is the video I want you all to see. It's not playing for some reason. Oh yes, it started.
Now more than ever, we are confronted with the fragility of life and our connection to nature and our planet. Nature is showing us that humankind is on the verge of a breakdown. At least 1 million plant and animal species are likely to disappear soon. We are on the verge of a mass extinction unlike anything humankind has ever seen. We rely on nature for our energy, for our food, and everything we need. We can fix this, but only if we act now. It's time to ensure we have a future. It's time for nature.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up!
This World Environment Day,
This World Environment Day, tell the world why it's time for nature.
it's time to show our leaders why nature matters.
Together or apart.
Juntos o separados.
Рядом или на расстоянии.
We will unite to make our voices heard.
We won't back down.
We will not back down.
We see real and lasting change to support this beautiful planet we call home.
Y reconectarnos emocionalmente con la naturaleza.
Tag your friends and leaders of corporations, companies, and governments.
To invite them to be part of the solution. We need the planet more than the planet needs us.
Your planet, my planet.
It's time for nature.
It's time for nature.
It's time for nature.
Llegó la hora de la naturaleza.
Students, this was 2 years back. This was 2020. Okay, so you can imagine. Yes. So you can imagine what is actually happening, right? You can actually you can imagine what is actually happening. We have already lost 2 years, and trust me, we have not done anything much, right? Now, when we look at conservation, or when we look at, now we know, after looking at the video, I'm sure you all have understood why do we need to take care of nature. Because last few years, I'm 100% sure all of you have experienced it, that we've been having monsoon which is delayed, very uncertain monsoons. We have lots of problems with respect to uh, the weathers, like the summers are extremely hot, the winters are becoming cold. Even in Mumbai, we have started to use shawls and sweaters. I don't think anybody, you can ask your parents, I don't think in ever that they had used shawls and sweaters in Mumbai. We never had to use because the Mumbai climate was not extreme. But now, in the morning, if you travel at around 6:30, when you all science people or all science students, or even for that matter, commerce and art students, when they have lectures in the morning, when they travel in the early morning for 8 o'clock lecture, when you travel for an hour or so, you will be leaving your houses at maybe 6:30 or 6:45. At that time, in the month of October, November, or December, it's really very chilly, it's very windy. It is becoming extreme. It is kind of becoming unpredictable because this was not the kind of weather Mumbai had. Why are we having so much of change? In fact, the data shows that there is a lot of change. Global warming has been happening. We all spoke about global warming possibly in our school. And we also spoke about ozone layer depletion. We spoke about, global warming, and there were so many things which were spoken about. They were taught to you for sure. How many of you actually did something? I have a few questions to ask. Like, I'm sure whenever we are ready for the question answer session, I have around 25 minutes more. So, whenever we have this question answer session, I would want to ask you all, how many of you use a shower to have a bath? You all don't use a bucket. How many of you actually do not use AC? We all know that we are contributing to greenhouse gases when we use AC, air conditions, or we use any kind of sophisticated instruments, including the refrigerators. And I don't think any one of us can live without refrigerators today. So rather than me being calling that as a want, it is a need. Agreed. But how many of you have heard about something called carbon footprint? What are we doing? What are we really wanting to even reduce carbon footprint? Do we even know what carbon footprint is? How do we reduce it? There are different ways of conservation. It need not be that unless and until I had a very beautiful video, and I would just want to share that video with you all. Just please remind me at the end. Before we finish my session, I would want to show that video to you. So, conservation need not always be associated with very drastic steps. Like, if I want to do conservation, I need to leave my job and just go and stay in the jungle and dedicate my life to the forest or conservation. It need not be like that. You can be very much a part of the city. You can be very much a part of the college. You can be very much doing everything which you're doing right now. Maybe Googling, I don't know, because this lecture could be very, very boring for you. Totally done, no problems. But my point here is that we can contribute to conservation by only having one conscious decision that we want to grow and we want to live in coexistence. We want to ensure that we are being a part of society, and the society is not going to exist only for me. Okay, so it is very much possible that we can develop harmony in existence. So we are going to talk about something wherein we do talk about the physical portion of physical part of nature, that I told you it is made up of soil, all the physical factors, all the physical parameters. So if I go in detail of every physical parameter, I will talk about whether I'm talking of light or air or water or anything. I know that the lowermost or the basic unit of anything in space, in nature, is going to be of an atom. There will be atoms which fuse together to form a molecule. This molecule together will form a substance. This substance could be in the solid form, in the liquid form, or the gaseous form. If it is in the solid or liquid form, it will help me also to form a cell, which is the living matter or the basic unit of life. And this much science, each one of you have studied. This is taught to you in your fourth, fifth standard, when you did not have an option of opting out of science or commerce or all the other basic subjects. So you all already are aware that our body is made up of cell. Even the plant body is made up of cells, and of course the animal body is also made up of cell, and we are all living. So we have something which is consciousness. Now there is something called consciousness, there is something called subconscious mind, and I'm sure you had a lecture on subconscious mind too. My role here is to relate your consciousness to nature. How do I relate consciousness to nature? If I decide that I want to contribute to conservation of nature, that has to be a conscious decision. That has to be the decision which I know I am going to recognize the requirement of this, that is conservation, and I need to take steps in order to fulfill this requirement or this want in my life. And mind you, this is not only a want, it is also a need for an hour. So we are going to be very consciously taking a call that we need to exist. In fact, I can also put it like this, that tomorrow, because our existence also is in danger, if I want to exist, the only way to exist is coexistence. If I do not participate in nature and in the way that I can coexist with nature, I will not be able to even exist. So I need to ensure that I have harmony, I have relationship with every form of material, every form of nature, whether it is plants, whether it is animals, whether it is some physical factor or component of nature. We need to ensure that it is there and we are taking care of it. And that is why I said about biofuels or about the fossil fuels. All of you are aware that we are exhausting this, which was once considered possibly as never ending resource. We are already on the verge of exhausting it. We need to ensure that whatever we are doing is a cyclic reaction. As we said before, nature is a very cyclic process. It is existing in harmony because of its cyclic nature. If intervention of humans, if humans, when they enter we call it as food chain, we call it as the web of life. Why do we have to call it as web of life or food chain? Is because over there we show dependence of humans on other organisms and other organisms on plants, those plants which are dependent on physical factors. Please understand, if we say that we don't have any importance of soil in our life, it is extremely wrong. Why? Because if there was no soil, no plants will exist. No plants, no food for all vegetarians. If you're a non-vegetarian, no plants, animals cannot eat those plants, and therefore no animals. Therefore, humans cannot exist. Even though we had chlorophyll in us so that we could photosynthesize, even in that case, we had to have soil because it was the only source which would give us water. And for photosynthesis, water is also equally important. We need sunlight. Without sunlight, we cannot do anything, nor can plants. We need to have good quality sunlight. I cannot say that I will have a lot of UV radiation coming down. I cannot allow that, because that brings in a new chapter which is called mutation. It will just change everything in my life, and I cannot deal with it. It becomes too much of change. We are wanting change, but we are super afraid of change as well. When we are wanting to coexist, we need right understanding about ourselves. We need to have desire, we need to have thought, and we need to have expectations from, and we always will have expectation from our peers and our superiors and people who are below us. We always will have the desire. I always desire that we need to have a very healthy nature around us. Whether I can actually get it or no is dependent on me and me alone. I cannot hold anybody else responsible. I cannot just say that just because you people are not working, I'm not getting good air. No. My question should be, am I doing something about it? Am I putting in even 10%? If I am putting 10%, I can expect at least 5% from you. And I should be doing that. Because I'm showing you that when I can put in 10%, you should be able to put in at least 5%. So my expectation should not be more than what I can input. Content of imagination is something which is extremely important. I cannot imagine the earth to be as it was 100 years back, because there are some changes which we have made which are irreversible. But what we can do today is we can stop spoiling it more. We can stop ruining it more. We can stop doing bad to it anymore. Right? So we need to live in harmony. We need this for our happiness. We need to ensure that we are educating people, educating our younger generation like y'all, ensuring. And of course, we had a very beautiful tradition. We have an amazing background from where we come. We are all Indians. So we have this sanstha, the Shikshan Sanstha, that is the educational institution. The institution is not only there to give you information. Information is available on Google also. There is a difference what Google can do and a teacher can do. Education can do. There are people who are literate. The difference between being literate and being educated is different. There is a lot of difference there. The difference is an educated person will be able to understand and will have conscious. They will be answerable. They will always be talking about responsibility. A literate person can read and write. They or he or she may not be educated. And that is what we need to change. We need to ensure that we are educated. We don't need to be only literate. There are too many literate people already around. We need to educate them as well. The job is not ours, the job is yours, because you have a better reach. You all have a better reach in the form of social media. You all have a better reach in the form of a lot of reach with respect to, you have your peers, you have a huge population, and you all can actually connect with each other. You all can connect with each other again because of social media. Right? I would just like to show you this video. I believe I can show this. It's a free video on YouTube. It is called Follow the Frog. I'll just take a minute and again share my screen. will share a Chrome tab. I'm sorry for the ad. Please give me a minute. Let this ad be over. Yes.
You
Please
are
see
a
this.
good person. You spend time with your family. You work out at the gym. You conserve water while showering. You like nice clothes. You give to charity. You recycle. You drive a Prius, but you use your bike when you can. You enjoy the occasional distraction at work. And you always send a card on Mother's Day. Always. But there's a part of you that tells yourself that you're not so good, that you could be doing more, that the world is falling apart at the seams, and all you've been doing is yoga. One day, you see that the rainforest is being destroyed at a staggering rate of 32 million acres a year. That's the equivalent of one football field every 78 seconds. You feel bad, angry, guilty. You've been apathetic for too long. You want to do something about it. You must do something about it. Well, this is what you're not going to do. You're not going to quit your job, leave your family, get on the next flight to Nicaragua, take a bus to the edge of the jungle, then hoof it across rivers, lakes, and streams on a quest to the very heart of the rainforest.
Take me to the heart of the rainforest.
You're getting closer. You're almost there. You have arrived.
You're not going to ingratiate yourself with the local tribesmen, go to great lengths to earn their respect and trust.
No.
It is around now you realize you're living out the cliche gringo fantasy of becoming an honorary native and leading the resistant forces. But screw it. If they could do it, so can you.
I'm gonna save you! This guy comes over here, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna pull a zap thing, that's right through him, right over here.
You're not going to coordinate and occupy the rainforest movement, realize it's hopeless, summon the power of the gods, lead a revolution against the deforesters and their multinational employers in an apocalyptic once-and-for-all battle to save humanity, only to awaken 2 days later in an El Salvadorian hospital with 2 toes missing on your left foot.
I'm serious, I wanna go home.
Hobble out of Central America, up through Mexico, across the Sierra Madre, where you break down, have your first cigarette in 4 years, accidentally start a wildfire, killing off the endangered species that once served as your occupational distraction, finally make it back home, only to find you've been replaced at work by a guy named TJ, and that things at home are not what they used to be. You're not going to do any of these things, but what you can do is follow the frog. Buying Rainforest Alliance certified products ensures the future of our rainforests, so that you don't have to do the things you shouldn't do anyway. Just follow the frog.
Okay, so this is what we need to do. This is what we really need to contribute as. We don't need to start, just take a revolutionary step, and we just don't need to.
This is a metaphor to show you how everything is connected.
We don't really need to just leave everything and just go to, as I said before, we don't need to just leave everything and just go out. We can really contribute by staying here as being a part of society and coexist. I think I can take questions in case if there are any. If there are no questions, I can continue.
Hi, ma'am. I'll just switch
Hi.
on the live
Sure.
chat. Yeah.
Yes.
Students, I think it'll be best if you refresh your page. You will see the live chat option open up in case you have any questions for Devangi, ma'am.
Radhika ma'am, will you be telling me if there are questions?
Yeah, ma'am, sure.
Sure.
I think you can also see them on your site in the comments section,
I don't
just
know.
in case. No?
Okay.
But
Uh,
meanwhile, I'm just managing in case there are any.
there
As
are
of
are there any questions? Because I can see none.
no, there aren't. There aren't yet.
There are no questions.
Students, if there are any questions, we have some comments, ma'am.
Please.
So one student says, "Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for the session. It was really nice."
Thank you so much.
Students, post this session, we have the next guest speaker, Jyoti ma'am, who will be joining in for the topic of the world. So the session is not coming to an end. It is just Devangi ma'am's lecture and session, which is towards its end. Okay, so 6:30 to 7:30, we have another session for you. So please stay put. So Tanisha asks, ma'am, what precautions can us students take to conserve endangered species?
What precautions can we take? See, the first thing we need to do is, if it is an endangered species, we need to understand where exactly it is available. If you're talking of an animal or a plant, if it is a plant, we will have to conserve the whole area, and there are different ways of conserving the plants or animals also. So we have a concept of national parks, we have concept of sanctuaries, we have small areas wherein there are these tribals who conserve their areas under the religious names. So, see, honestly, I'm not here to tell you that religion is good or bad, but religion can really help us conserve, because that is one of the most powerful tool we can have. If you tell somebody that this is very religious, now even if I'm giving you a very simple example because I teach botany, uh, I can give you examples of plants and of course a few examples from animals or birds. But if I tell somebody that you should not cut a people tree, why? Because it's a very religious tree, it's a very auspicious tree. Uh, People won't do that. People won't cut it only because it is told by some religious gurus. So if we can do this, if we can pass this message that these plants are very important religiously, if it is important because the religion needs them, we'll be able to conserve. This is one of the methods. Of course, it is not always correct to just put everything on religion and just let them do the job. We can definitely have other ways, scientific ways, like maybe, as I said before, maybe having a national park or a sanctuary. Like we have tiger national parks, we have tiger reserves, we have I don't know how many of you have actually been to national park in Borivali, which is very much in the heart of Mumbai. But we have many endemic plants. We have many plants which grow only there in national park and nowhere other, no place other. Uh, so we have sanctuaries, we have national parks, we have places which are going to take care of nature as it is, as a whole. So in tribals, we have a concept which is going to be called as the forest, which is supposed to be the god's place. It is called Devrahi in Marathi. I'm saying Marathi because we live in Mumbai, we are from Maharashtra. So all the people in Maharashtra, all the tribals in Maharashtra will have this concept of Devrahi. Uh, so these are the places how they conserve. There are different questions like, Miss, to be sustainable, do we have to make changes in our food diet? Uh, Honestly, no. I mean, I'm not against people who are non-vegetarian or vegetarians, only because, see, even non-vegetarian people who eat animals are not collected, or they are not caught from wild, not always. But yes, eating exotic animals, like if somebody goes and tells me that you should eat peacock meat, which is wrong, unless we start you know uh, capturing peacocks, or we start farming of peacock, like we have the chicken farms and so on. Okay, so uh, it's not supposed to be made, the food diet is not supposed to be changed. Yes, you can definitely opt for something which is organic. Now, I'm not asking you to spend more money and buy organic food. I'm just telling you to be a little more sensitive towards nature, because the minute we start to put more and more chemicals in soil, we are deteriorating the quality of soil. Now, in order to deteriorate the quality of soil, we've already put in so much of chemical, it is already holding those chemicals. So we really need to give the time to the soil to come back on its own by ensuring that we put in more of organic matter. We see, it's a bad thing when I say that I should burn the dead animals, okay, including humans, I would say. The reason why we have this, many religions have this system of burial, is because the body is allowed to decompose on its own in there, and that is where all the nutrients from what we have collected in our body are going to go back to nature. When I'm burning it, I'm actually losing so many nutrients. That is bad, right? So yes, that is, I believe I answered the question. There is one more question which says, ma'am, since we have already damaged our nature to such an extent, are reforms that are being made to conserve and preserve it really making much of a difference? See, the difference may not be visible, or it may not be seen immediately, but if we don't do anything now also, we will ruin it more, right? So rather than me saying that अरे already सब कुछ खराब हो चुका है, I have not been a part of when it was being bad or when it was just going bad. I think it is our duty to ensure that we are conscious, we are ensuring that our future generation will have something to be called nature, because today the condition is really bad. I think the future generation of ours deserves to know what nature is, right?
So, ma'am, they have to maintain a journal, right? So you can give them a question to reflect and note down their reflections on it in their journal. So whatever, something as basic as maybe their interaction with nature, etc. Whatever you think is
Okay.
important for them to think about.
So, sure, ma'am. So, bachas, y'all can do one thing. Y'all can just write what you think can be your contribution for conservation. Okay. This is solely your write up. You may write it in 5, 10 lines or whatever, however, how much ever you can write. But think logically and write things which are doable. Don't take extreme steps. What that boy took, right? So, just tell me the contribution you think you can make in conservation. Okay.
So students, you can reflect on this. You're maintaining a journal at your end. So according to ma'am's question and instructions, you can add in your views and your thoughts onto that journal. And I repeat, this journal will be collected from you via a Google form upload towards the end of the SIP. Okay, during the concluding session, which is after the Ganpati break. Ma'am, there's one more question. Would you want to take it, or do you want to close it?
No problems. I think it is,
think it's a
ma'am, don't the
follow-up
coffins
question.
in the burial procedure hinder the decomposition? Right? Is that the question, Aradhika, ma'am?
Yeah, ma'am. I think, and I think I'll close the chat now.
No worries, no worries, no problem.
Okay, yeah.
The question is, yes, the coffins will hinder, but it is not going to stop the procedure. Now, see, when I burn the dead body, I am simply converting all the organic matter to ash. And this ash is, no doubt, it is going to be of value, but that value is reduced. Whereas, though the coffin or any kind of structure which is actually around the body will hinder the process or kind of slow down the process of decomposition, but it will not completely be useless, or it will have its own importance because it will allow the decay to happen. So maybe normally if I would have left the body out, it would have taken around a month and a half or two to decompose. Possibly this process will take a year, but even after that, the body with the content of the body will be available for the nature to absorb all the nutrients. So though it is going to slow down, as I said, it will be helpful to nature for sure. It's a better way rather than me just burning the whole body and just getting done with it. Okay,
So,
so I
ma'am, I've
hope I've
closed
answered the
the
question.
interaction. Sorry, ma'am, I've closed the interaction, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Anything else that you want me to add into the stream or something?
No, ma'am, that's it. Thank you so much.
I'll just add for those, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, a very good evening once again to all of you. On behalf of Jain College and the student induction team, we all would like to extend a very heartfelt gratitude and thanks to Devangi ma'am for accepting the invitation and giving so much valuable insights and doing it in such an interactive way whereby you all as students could understand your duties and responsibility towards the nature and environment of which we are all a part of it, right? For environment, anything that it is a collective responsibility where we need to care, we need to value, we need to appreciate what's in nature and play a very important role in its conservation and preservation. So thank you once again, ma'am, for such a beautiful session.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was
Thank
a
you,
pleasure.
ma'am, once again. Thank you. Now, students,
May I
please be
leave,
there
ma'am?
as Radhika ma'am, Jyoti ma'am, in 2 minutes. We'll be starting the next session at 6:30. Students, again, a very good evening to one and all present here. After a very enriching session on nature, as citizens, as global citizens, our responsibility extends toward our role and our duties, our responsibilities as a global citizens towards the world. So we have us this another speaker with us, Ms. N.K. Jyoti. She's she's the associate professor at the psychology department at Jain College. Ma'am has a teaching experience of more than 25 years, and who better to explain you the topic on world than Jyoti ma'am. I welcome Jyoti ma'am and thanks her for extending our kind invitation to address you all for the Diksharam, the student induction program of Jain College Autonomous. Thank you, Jyoti ma'am, once again.
Thank you, Firdaus. Thank you, Radhika. Thank you, Devangi. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I
You're
audible?
clearly audible. You're clearly
Okay.
audible.
Okay.
The screen is
So-
slightly darker, but you're clearly audible.
Yeah, I have put all the lights. I don't know what's happened.
No problem, ma'am. It is still
But I
quite.
think since I'm going to be sharing a PPT, I think it will be visible.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, please carry on.
Yeah. So, a very good evening to all of you. I'm going to use the presentation. So there will be a PPT as I talk. So let me start by sharing the PPT. I'm just waiting for it to, yeah. So after having gone through sessions where you talked about the self, you tried to understand yourself, you had a session on what it means to be different in terms of psychology, conflict management, and today the session on you and nature, we move to youth and the world. Just a bit of trivia. Devangi ma'am and I share a birthday, which is 12th August, which also happens to be International Youth Day. So I'm very happy that both of us got to speak on the topic of youth, one talking about nature and the other talking about the world. So like Firdaus said, I'm Jyoti. I'm from the psychology department. I'm an associate professor there. I've been teaching for more than 25 years. And it's my pleasure to address all of you in the student induction program. So welcome again to all of you. So when we talk about youth and the world, we talk about the fact that the world is starting with your family, moves on to society, nation, and then globe. So if I ask you, what are the roles you play as a youth, I'm sure you would have thought of some of these answers and many, many more. You would have thought of yourself as being a daughter, a son, a grandchild, a neighbor, a worker, a taxpayer, an app builder, and many more. So where do you get these roles from? The first point of contact of you with a world is family. We all know that, right? As little children, our first exposure to something other than us is our mother, father, and people around us. So the family is our first world. And you can see there are different kinds of families. And families live in a close relationship with each other. And just for the sake of order in the world, it would be good if we had families or groups that work together. It could be a tribe, it could be a community. All of this works so that there is order and we don't look like a crowd or a battlefield. As you can see, there are so many different families in today's world. So your first unit of experience away from the self is the family. Who do you think this is? You may say he's a writer. You may say he is a participant of a sapling drive. You may say he's the son of a gardener. And you, of course, will say that he knows how to pose in front of the camera, because that is something we've all learned from various families that we have, including the WhatsApp family. So after having made an initial statement that our extension of ourself beyond the self is first the family, we put out certain premises saying that there is something called the human goal. Different perspectives will give you different kinds of human goals. Psychology may give you a goal, political science may give you a goal, botany may give you a goal for the humans also, commerce and management may give you a human goal for commerce and management. So every stream, field would give you a different goal. But for the sake of our understanding, we look at it in a very general manner. We start off with at least 4 goals that you could have for the human being. One is understanding. You already done that. You understood the self. Now, beside that, when you talk about the world, it is understanding you with the world. The second would be prosperity. Everyone seeks that prosperity immediately and then extending onto a world. You would hopefully not want to have only your family living all around you. You want to have families living around you. The third goal we could state is fearlessness. There is a very interesting relationship here about fearlessness, trust, and affection. How do you live in a family without feeling fear? Because you know that even if you do get punished, there is a basis for it. It is done with a lot of justice and fairness and with a lot of love and affection. So when we talk about fearless in society, we learn how to be fearless in school, college, because we know even though there will be some feedback, nobody is going to brutalize us or abuse us. And the fourth goal we could say is coexistence. Just like we said, family should have prosperity. So also when we talk about coexistence, we all have to learn and live in mutual fulfillment. Devangi ma'am has already covered your coexistence with nature. There are other forms of coexistence too. So we will take each of these questions and we will see whether this is the only question or are there other assumptions to them. So when we say every human being should have an understanding, so are we saying that only few of us will be understanding and others should follow us? Or are we saying that only few of us will have an understanding and others will not have an understanding? Right? So what do we mean by that? If you look at some of the values and feelings that you get in a family, these are some of the values and feelings that you inherit or learn from a family. One is trust. The other is respect, affection, care, guidance, reverence, glory, gratitude, love. So I have soldiers in my family. We feel very proud of the fact that we have had generations of soldiers. We are a very caring family. We are a little bit more, spoon feeders, like many of the teachers at Jai Hind. We are very caring, right? So these are the values you learn originally in families, then gets transported to how you show it in school, what reciprocation you get, how your school functions, how your college functions, how the society functions. So for example, affection in society, you don't expect people to come and hug you on the road, but very simple thing, you are well mannered. When you meet somebody and greet them, you do it with a nice namaste and a happy smile. So you carry that forward, right? So many of these feelings and values which we learn as part of a family gets carried on to our larger society. Now every family is a new story. Each family teaches you in different ways. There could be sessions together, there could be talks, there could be activities. It could be on the way you are rewarded or punished. It could be on the basis of what your father, mother, brother, sister did, right? So you learn all these love, trust, affection, all that on the basis of your interactions primarily or initially with the family. But then it moves on to school, society, and so on. So one of the reasons why we are talking about youth and society is that after having understood the self and having some idea what it means to be you, right, maybe say from the age of being, say 10, you slowly start developing an idea of what you are. At the same time, you have started a larger interaction with your social world. And when you come to college, you really are thrown open, right? You get a lot of autonomy. You can behave quite freely, but you should know what your limits are. So that is why this discussion about society in a student induction program at the first year level, because that means you are now getting a chance to be a member of this world. The world could be a college, the world could be a city, the world could be your voting rights, right? So whatever way you can be a member, now is the chance for you to be the member. Before you were developing your own self, now You may not be fully participating, but you can think about that. So that is why we are talking about all this in the SIP. So after talking about the fact that you have a right understanding and that everyone should try and have a right understanding, we talk about the idea which we floated, which was about prosperity. We said that it's not just one family which is prosperous. The whole community, the entire world should try and look for prosperity. You can see this particular picture. You can see that this reflects India's income distribution. It is said that there's 90% poverty and very few people take the major chunk of the wealth in the country. Is that a great state to be in? Is that the kind of family where you want to belong to? Of course, the answers are not simple. So as we go through the entire session, you need to sit back a little bit and do a little introspection and think of what these questions are being put, whether you think it's all correct, whether it's really interconnected, whether there are other ways of looking at it also, right? So you need to look at all this also with a critical point of view. So are we continuing to build a class-based society? Are we in our actions trying to differentiate people, make categories? Sometimes you need to make categories to help, but are we making categories to denounce people, put people down? As you can see, it literally looks like the higher class is standing on the foot of the lower class. So is that what we are doing in our bid for prosperity? Are we creating unnecessary groups? Are we creating discrimination, prejudice? Are we start standing on the top of the political buildings and saying something to try and disturb? So you need to be careful about what you are doing with your prosperity. The third premise we had was that we should be in a fearless society, right? So fearlessness, like I said, it's got a very interesting connection here. When you talk about fearlessness, you may think all the brave warriors who are fearless. But where does that fearlessness come from? Okay, personality wise, some people are very brave, but besides that, they have seen on and on again that when they do something, they get the just reaction. People don't mistreat them. People don't take revenge unnecessarily. There is no mistrust and jealousy in society. You know that mistrust and jealousy is definitely part of society. So then where do we stand? The idea is that the fearlessness should actually be based on trust and affection. So when you see mistrust and jealousy, you have to find a way to resolve it. First, of course, by accepting that it is there. If you deny it is there, that's even worse. Okay, I'm going to read out this little quote for y'all. And you may think of all those people who come to your mind who may have stood up for a just cause. It may be someone in your family. It may be someone in your neighborhood. Maybe someone from your school or college. It may be a famous personality, and any one of those. So it reads, it is from numberless, diverse acts of courage and belief that human history is shaped. We have got so many figures in history who have stood and said things and convinced the people that this is the way to go. Each time a man stands up for an ideal or act, he improves the lot of others. And strike out at injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. So today, when we fight for those people who are having disadvantages, whether we do it as a little effort in our college, whether you do it as a little effort in your society or in your community, or you send sensible WhatsApp forwards which have a bankable form, then you can also consider yourself as taking a part in this creation of trust, okay, in society. Now, this is what we would all like to be. We may have been like this when we were children. As we grow older, we realize there are some responsibilities that we cannot just be brave. Being brave and fearless also requires that the structure around us is also solid and will give us the support to be brave and free. So the fourth point we said was coexistence. Now, this point I'm not dealing much in detail because Devangi ma'am has already talked about the fact that you have to stay in coexistence with nature. I will look at a story, for example. The story is not just about man and nature. It could be about man and man. Okay. So an old man was walking on the beach one morning after a storm. In the distance, he could see someone moving like a dancer. As he came closer, he saw that it was a young woman picking up starfish and gently throwing them into the ocean. So he told her, "Young lady, why are you throwing starfish into the ocean? The sun is up and the tide is going out." She said, "If I do not throw them, they will die." So the man says, "Young lady, do you realize that there are many, many miles of the beach and thousands of starfish? You cannot possibly make a difference." So the young woman listened politely, then bent down, picked up another starfish and threw it into the sea. She said, "It made a difference for that one." So you see, any little act that you make which makes a difference for somebody else, you should give a pat on your back that you have done something today besides just being for yourself. So you've been part of the world. So it's all nice to say we should have right understanding, there should be prosperity, there should be fearlessness, there should be coexistence, and many more that you may have thought about. Like I said, you're free to also think of alternatives. So then if we assume that these are the things we want to achieve, we have to do an appraisal. We have to see whether this is really being achieved or not. So we realize, I think when I talked, you must have already got examples where things are not in place. Lot of work has to be done on ourselves and our immediate surroundings. So baby steps. So what are the baby steps we could take? And also, what are the hugest steps we could possibly contribute if we go into positions of power or policy making? So the way ahead would be to use education, health and self-regulation, production and work in the correct manner, justice and preservation, exchange and storage. Again, you can think of many other ways of moving forward. If you want, I'll give you exactly 5 seconds so that I can also take a breather, and you can think of other ways in which you want to improve the world. Okay, so when we talk about education, you all know you're getting a good education. What does it mean to have an education? I always ask my class students, I say, you're becoming graduate. Is that equal to education? So some say, yeah, some say, but ma'am, with this graduation, I don't think I can get a job. But does that still mean you have an education? Are you different from someone who just wants a certificate or just wants a degree? Even the person who just wants a degree has to show some commitment. He has to show that, okay, he or she will take exams. So it's not like all lost there, right? So education provides commitment. Education provides you an opportunity to prepare. It gives you a practice of living in harmony at all levels, because a little action that you do in class will have a ripple effect in the full college, and then it may have a effect on the university, the city, and so on, right? So you must remember that whatever you do today, you're the youth, and whatever little you do, it has a ripple effect. Not everything, but whenever you're doing an act in front of many people, you have to be careful. You have to monitor yourself, see what you're saying, how you're saying, because all of that can affect the harmony at various levels. So they've used an Indian word here. They say you should have good sanskar, which means you do the things that are appropriate, not correct just morally, but what is required in a particular circumstance. If it requires you to help somebody who's very needy, but requires you to do something different from your community, if you go ahead and do it, it may work, right? So in education, you learn commitment, preparation. Preparation includes learning skills and technology for living in harmony. So skills and technology, anyway you learn, but remember the harmony fact. That is, whatever you're learning is not just for you, it's also the way you're going to use it for living in the society. And living in society means living with people. So taking care of their needs, demands also makes a big difference. So these are some goals or reforms of Indian higher education. So these days, higher education, though the funding has reduced, higher education is looking at all this: innovation, research, entrepreneurship, autonomy. You will see all these words even in the Jai Hind College vocabulary, right? We've become an autonomous college. We like to believe that our students are giving employable skills. Some of you already have placements and so on. So education is aiming to do all these. And looking at sanskar, you could take a look at this quote. It says, do the right thing even when no one is looking. That is called integrity. That means you are true to what you believe. You're true to what you are, even if nobody is looking. Like my mother used to say, God is anyway looking, right? So, integrity. Now, the second way ahead is health and self regulation. So, when you talked about the self, you talked about the mental aspects. Here, we are also saying you should take care of the body. You should see that you do things which don't harm you, right? So, do not abuse your body in terms of overwork, lack of sleep. Don't overdo it for a long time. Always having only street food, right? Taking food at the wrong time, not having enough mobility or some kind of exercise. Besides that, you can also develop the mind, right? So the mind and body have to be in harmony, because when you say get up, it is 5 a.m. You have to go for the exam at 8:30. If your body does not cooperate, you won't be able to come for the exam. Sometimes we do find one odd student having that problem. So you should take care of finding that there is harmony between what your mind says and what your body feels, right? So this is a little diagram for that. The one on the left tells you that all these things are good for the heart. That's the biological heart. And on the right side, let me give you a little bit of psychology input. There are various kinds of intelligences. There could be musical intelligence, bodily intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, interpersonal intelligence. So when I say you need to find the mind body link, you could also find what is it that you're intelligent at and use that well. You may already be doing that, like the fact that somebody is a science student, somebody is a BMS student, somebody is a BA student, tells you that you've picked on a few intelligences, are using that. But if there is something that is hidden, college is the time for you to get it out, explore it. This is a lovely area or lovely zone for you to take calculated risks. Do it. Jo bhi karna hai, abhi karo. Do it with your friends, with your classmates. Tap on each of your intelligences and also take care of your body, right? So don't abuse. Then we say production and work. That is what you're all preparing for, right? You want to be an important contributor as an employee, as an entrepreneur, as say somebody who wants to improve the world, policymaker. You want to be someone who's into music, somebody into drama, somebody into marketing, advertising, psychologist, economist, name it. We have all those options available for you in terms of production and work. Now, before you go for production and work, this time, this phase in college would be a good time for you to ask the question, what to produce? And for yourself, you could ask the question, what to work on, right? What to work on, how to produce, or how do I work on that? And when you do that, also keep in mind the cyclical aspect of anything that you do. So if, for example, you are producing a particular commodity and good, you do know that it has an impact in the world. Suppose you're going to be a CA, you know that you're going to find a way to keep the law in consonance with what people need. You're not just going to keep law on one side and people on one side, no balance there. So what you're doing is for the betterment of both the nation as well as people. So each of you will have to figure out what to work and how to work. When I say what to produce and how to produce, it means just that the end product could be a service or a good or whatever. And it has to be cyclical. Now, whenever you're working, whatever you do, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an NGO, whether you're a teacher, you're working with people. Even if you're working online, you're working with people, right? So you have to see that relationships are maintained. You have to be friendly with people. You cannot be completely introverted, right? You need to have basic people skills, politeness, order, talking in turn, right? Not being excessively informal. Those are all the things you need to take with you. Now, this, of course, is just a picture on different kinds of production styles. Some are more eco-friendly. Some are not so eco-friendly, though they claim to be so. So, like I said, I'll give you like 10 seconds. Think of, have you thought of why you want to work? What you want to work? You may say, I will become CA, I'll become psychologist, I will become entrepreneur. But what exactly? Just give it a thought, what you want to do. Suppose you had a chance that you could do whatever you wanted, right? What is that you would want to do? Just use that 10 seconds to think about that. And then we look at what is it that youth work for. You can see the 6 E's here. So when youth work, they may not immediately work for just getting salary, right? They want to be able to have young people do things that they want to do together and individually. What is a better time than college for you to be participant of the world? Do things that you want, do it with others, do it individually. I want to learn a particular skill. Okay, along with college, I'm doing that. I'm also sharing it with somebody, right? I'm having some on the spot competition and using that. Emancipation, providing young people with opportunities to emancipate and gain autonomy. Many of you will hold positions in various societies. You may be already be members of some societies. These days there are all kinds of groups and courses. So you find a way to find your own role there, and you want to do it the way you do it, right? Then of course enjoyment. The equivalent to youth is enjoyment, I think, right? So you have to find a way to enjoy. So studies, for example, find a way to enjoy it. Okay, I like to study with a group, so study with a group. I like to study by myself and generate quiz for others, do it. They'll be happy, you'll be happy, you'll learn. So you learn to enjoy it. Empowering, you will again get the opportunity in Jai Hind, as well as in your immediate learning environment, to make small changes in your immediate surrounding society, maybe even big changes if you're into policy making and things like that. So simple things, maintain cleanliness, maintain discipline, see that if there is some wrongdoing, you help the person, you help both the parties, because the one who's doing wrong may also not be realizing what they're doing. Then you engage as people. Your basic thing is to engage with power and policy. Your first power, of course, is your parents. You have to deal with them, and you have to know how to and what they respect and what they expect. Then you do it with school, then you do it with your community, and now you'll do it with college and your peers, right? So you have to engage with power, and in some cases you have to also engage with policy. Like, for example, there is that reservation policy in India, which threw up a big movement saying that you can't reserve. Even now, every group is trying to say we want reservation. So how do you feel about that? Have you really read through the documents? Have you understood why we are doing that? So you need to engage with power and policy. And of course, non-formal education, all the soft skills that you learn by working in teams, doing a PowerPoint, doing some other kind of presentation, whatever else, you're all tech experts, so I'm not going there. So many competencies you develop. So after talking a lot about what education does and how it builds your skills, we must remember that we are in this world because everyone wants to live their role. Everyone wants their share of the pie, and everyone wants to feel that they have got what they deserve. So to achieve all that, you have justice. First word for justice you would think is law, or you would think, the legal system of a country. It starts much before that. It starts again with the family, and then with the way the school dealt out its, punishments and rewards. It goes on to your community, it goes on to, colleges, moves on to the world today. During COVID, we all become even more, friendly with technology, and we could see the world the way it was changing. We got information from across the world live about data and statistics about what was happening. And we could play a role if we wanted. We could put a message in a Google form, and we could vote for something, right? So we were participant in a global world during these 2 years of COVID, more so than usual, because usually we are very busy living our lives. But this was a chance where we got to literally step into the international field, in the global field, right? Many of us did things not just for our own immediate satisfaction. We tried to involve ourselves in other things. So when you want to do all that, you should have a just world which will recognize your worth, which will reward you, which will not punish you unnecessarily, which will not abuse you. And if you see people doing that, you have to also stop it, right? And you have to also, if possible, teach people their rights, their obligations, teach people what is it that they can get from the system and nicely get it without exploiting. So we have to do both of these. But maybe we are able to do more of A and not so much of B. And that's where we say that justice ensures fearlessness in the society. Because if you have just if you feel that there is justice, then you will feel that I can do things and I will not be unfairly treated, right? Along with justice, there is a word called preservation. Before we go to preservation, let me just indulge you in a little bit of types of justice. One type of justice is called procedural justice, and the other type of justice is called distributive justice. So when you are given respect, when things are explained to you clearly, when there are no biases, when you are getting a chance to tell your story, when you feel that the person who's delivering the justice is trustworthy, then you can see procedural justice, right? So sometimes, for example, ghar pe mummy has given a larger piece to my sibling, but she has explained why it is like that, so I'm okay with it. So not only was the distribution acceptable to me, but because the way she told me, it was acceptable. So procedural justice has got to do with the way justice was given, right? For example, they're trying to improve the tax evasion in India by making it simple. Go to the site, you can fill everything. It becomes easier for people to pay their taxes. This helps a lot in procedural justice, right? Because it becomes everyone has got the same kind of form. There is no question of anyone trying to fill anything else. There are only allotted categories. You have to just follow the menu and do it. And there is timeliness because you can sit at home, sit in your car and finish it off. So all those steps they're taking to improve tax payment, right? So one was distributive justice, the other is procedural justice, then distributive justice. What is the basis on which divisions are made of rewards, of products, of services, of available whatever you get available to you from the government or from a private firm? So it could be based on equality, saying that everyone will get equal. Somebody will say no, it should be based on need. Somebody needs it more, so give it to them. Somebody will say it is based on right, because as a senior citizen I have this right. Okay, somebody will say I have put in more effort. So when you figure out the principles of distributive justice and communicate it to your group, you are using procedural justice. But what is the basis of division is your distributive justice. So hopefully in justice we trust, right? Preservation, I think this part has also been taught by Devangi ma'am, because it is about not just preservation of human relationships, it's also preservation with respect to nature. So we know that the flamingos are supposedly back in Mumbai. I didn't know when they were originally there, but I do definitely know they're back. So is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Did we do something proactively to get them there? Are they just coming because they are trying to teach us something, right? How is it that they are living in this cement kind of world, and somewhere in the background you can see the tall buildings and the tall flamingos? This of course is an improportionate one, but basically it's trying to tell you that you have to look for coexistence. But the nice point that is being made here is that when you are looking for coexistence, you also need to, on the other hand, have justice. Because if you're treating nature badly, there should be some punishment for you. If you're treating nature well, there is automatically some reward for you. So that trust also should be there. Besides that, whatever actions you take, right? You want to fight for a friend, you want to help a neighbor, you want to fight for a community, you feel certain groups deserve reservation, you're fighting for that. You should be sure that nobody harms you. So that kind of sense of justice would come again from the various societies you've experienced, right? Leading up to a larger world. Have you heard of the Chipko movement? This was a movement around our independence movements. What do you see here? You see a tree and you see women from the neighboring villages standing and hugging the tree. That is called Chipko. They are sticking themselves to the tree. So what is the idea behind this? They realized that there was deforestation in their area, and they felt that the trees were their family. So they said, no, don't cut them, right? So this Chipko movement was part of the original movement where it was said that give the land back to the people, don't take it away for industrialization. So just very few, you can say, remnants of this movement is still there, where people are trying to fight for land to be for more for agriculture, but that is not going the way they desired, right? Because there have been a lot of shifts some sensible, some not so sensible with respect to world and yourself and nature, right? This is another one where it says thank you from the cricket family. This is actually a picture in a stadium. The cricketers had got together and created funds for the firefighters. So from one family to the other. So this was also about mutual exchange, right? So whenever we think of family, we can only think mother, father, but families could be many. Sometimes we even use the word Jai Hind family, for example, right? Which brings us to the fact that we are in our 75th year and we all should, as youth, contribute to whatever we can for the cause of Jai Hind and the students there. And the last way in which we can go forward is exchange storage. So the idea here is that whatever you have will not grow unless you share it with everybody. And before you share, you have to also find a way to conserve it, store it, so that it doesn't become obsolete or doesn't get disintegrated. So this could be simple things like even your emotions. It could be actually products. It could be ideas. It could be the publishing of literature and books or research. There are various ways of storage. Like Jai Hind is supposed to be an incubation center. That means other students or other colleges, they want to develop an idea, we help them develop it. So in many ways, exchange storage, when you help others to do something, when you are in a group and you say that, okay, that one's not able to do it that well, I'll help them, then that is the meaning of exchange and storage. You have it within you, you're keeping it, you're not just letting it go, as well as you're sharing it with everyone. You can think of it in a larger. So now I'll take you a little bit into history again. There is something called the Sarvodaya movement, which was popularized by Gandhiji. It is not very active now, but it is something from where you can take a lot of ideas. So in the Sarvodaya movement, he was himself influenced by other philosophers. In the Sarvodaya movement, a village was supposed to be self-supporting, right? So everything that the village needed, people who worked there would do it for them. And there would be no distinctions based on race, creed, caste, language, and so on. Whatever was produced, whatever consumed was part of that little village. So it was like that village industry which we used to have in history as India before we even became, under the British rule. So the needs of the village were determined by the people of the village themselves through a village council. So some ideas of this are still existing, like the village panchayat, okay, panchayati raj, and the fact that they can make their own choices. But what we need to think about in the Sarvodaya movement is, it is for server, it is for everybody, right? So whatever we share, we think of it in terms of not just doing it for ourselves, but for the greater good. If that little seed is there in us, we will somehow follow that path. So even when we are going into a path of I want this, somewhere we'll do a little for the larger community. That is not the primary objective of Sarvodaya, but that is something you could take from it. Originally, it means everyone works and lives together, and the decisions are made collectively, right? These are some pictures of Jai Hind College contribution during the COVID. So many of you may also be there in this picture, I don't know. So many students took out from their regular life, took a little bit of a risk, calculated risk, and went to help others, right? Since I'm a psychologist, I would like to give you one more term which talks about how youth and the world are related. So according to Adler, who's a psychologist, he gave a very wonderful idea. He said some of the problems that youth have, some of the problems that people have, are because they're only thinking about themselves. If they can think of others, then they will reduce many of their problems. Because they're so obsessed with just themselves, they get into delusions, they get into grandeur. They're not able to think of something beyond them. And so he said, as a psychotherapy, if you could you could create social interest, right? You could create a link with yourself, with your society. It makes for better adaptive living. So this is again your chance in college. You're free to explore, free to interact. So try and make good friends who will stay with you for life. Try and participate in activities, various societies. You will be able to really use that social interest, not just for social interest, but for developing skills. Okay, I may be a tad telling you a lot of things to do. It's just my enthusiasm. I'm sure you already have a lot of ideas of what you would want to do. So to summarize, what we are trying to say is that you have to try and look for the world in a harmonic fashion. So it starts with the family, the village, then the nation, and the world. So whatever you do has some repercussions on everything around you. So this I will give you 15 seconds to read. This is just the overview of what we did. I move on then to again, share with what Jai Hind already does. So we have contribution in terms of research. You may also see Devangi ma'am here somewhere. We also take part in the social global space. You have NCC achievements. You have talks like technology workshop on ethical hacking. We all know Jai Hind is famous for culture, sharing, growing, learning from each other. So now, as a little exercise, I've got two things for you. Radhika madam will release a form for you, and you can also put down the unjumbled words that are here. They are in a jumbled fashion. So after the presentation, besides thinking of yourself as a daughter or a grandchild, what are some of the other words that you could get out of this presentation, right? So you can say I am, and you unjumble these and put it in your whatever workbook you have. So it tells you that these are also the ways in which you can think of yourself in context of society. That's one activity you do. And the second one, Radhika ma'am will share a form with you. There are a few MCQ type of questions just to get us some feedback that you are very much present for the session and you heard us. So I think she will find a way to do that.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
So I have released the form on the on a chat for you students.
Okay.
You'll just have to refresh the page maybe once to see the chat.
Students will have to refresh
Yes,
it,
the students
okay.
will have to refresh the page, and I have also pinned it so it is there for your easy viewing. You would be able to see the form, and as directed by Jyoti ma'am, please fill this form for this session. It's an activity.
Yeah. If there is something you want to ask, then you can are we opening it up for any questions,
Yes,
Radhika?
ma'am.
Do
The
we have the
chat is,
time? Yeah.
yeah, the chat is open. So if you have any questions for
Can
Jyoti ma'am
questions?
students, you
Yes.
can please post on the chat box. I repeat, you can just refresh the page from your end, students, to see the form and see that the chat is now active for you to ask questions if you have any to Jyoti ma'am. We have some time.
After that, we have one of our student council members who will make a little presentation on what you can do in Jai Hind itself for the society in the world. And like I said, this is our 75th year. So ideas are welcome.
Ma'am, the students are saying it's not accepting responses.
Okay.
I think it's enabled to only Jai Hind IDs can access it. Maybe that's the thing.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it says that it needs permission. Just a second, students. Jyoti ma'am is just making the changes at her end. Just give a couple of seconds.
Yeah, you can refresh it now. It should be working.
Meanwhile, if there are any questions, you can ask those as well on the chat box. Ma'am, I think they are unable to see that last jumbled word. If you can just dictate, I'll just, or you can read it out aloud, ma'am.
Okay.
UIDs, if you, since you haven't received your UID, students, you can just write NA over there as of now.
I'll have to minimize if I have to check for it. So I myself am not able to see it.
Or should they just leave the last word maybe?
Yeah, so that's all right. Yeah.
You can leave the last word, students, not an issue. You don't have your UIDs, we understand, so you can just write NA. I think Jyoti ma'am, that's fine, right?
Yes, yes.
Ma'am,
So the
while
next
they are
slide,
yeah, ma'am.
next slide is just resources. Whatever I use the images, so I put all the credits so that I keep in line with that, and some suggestions on books you could read. You may have read more than this, but just a variety of things you could read. This, like I said, we are celebrating this, and then of course a thank you to everybody.
Ma'am, while they are filling the form, do you think we can add Bhavna to the stream?
Yes, yes,
if she's ready.
Yes. Yeah,
Bhavna?
good timing. I think you can switch off the chat so that when she comes, there is no chat.
Okay, sure. Students, just a couple of things. When you're done with your Google form, just stay put. We have Bhavna, you met her during the introductory session. So we're just adding her to the stream, and there will also be an attendance form that you need to fill in. So please stay put. We are in the last segment of the session. Jyoti ma'am, shall I keep you on the stream, or would you like to be removed from the stream?
I think I can move, no? Let her be there.
So ma'am, on behalf of Team SIP and the students, thank you so much for joining us. It was not just enlightening, but also so interesting to see the world from different perspectives, and not just the world around us, but also the small world that we have built at JN for each other, for us, for the staff members, for the students, etc. So thank you so much for joining us, and I leave it over to Bhavna now to continue.
Yeah, thank you, Radhika. Thank you, Firdaus madam and Radhika madam. Thanks a lot.
Over to you, Bhavna.
Okay, thank you so much, Radhika ma'am. Okay. So, hello everyone. As you all know, my name is Bhavna Ramchandani, a TYBA Psych major student and an aspiring criminal psychologist in the future. And I'm also the supervisor of the student council and the former general secretary of the NSS unit of JN College. So you all must have met me on the first session, also on the introductory session where I had spoken about self-relevance. And today I'm going to talk about NSS unit and the RCJC club of our JN College. To start with, the NSS unit. The National Service Scheme is a central sector scheme of the Government of India, Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. NSS encourages the youth to take part in various government-led community service activities and the programs. The sole aim of the NSS is to provide hands-on experience to young students in delivering community service to the society or to the world or to the nation. NSS conducts activities for the social cause and on the situations or the topic that are related to a social benefit. On September 24th, 1969, the Union Education Minister V.K.R.V. Rao launched NSS at 37 universities in all states, where an NSS was launched after a lot of planning. NSS is a 2-year program where a NSS student who is also a volunteer is an active member who would have the exposure and experience to be an accomplished social leader and an efficient administrator and also a person who understands human nature. The motto of NSS is Not Me But You, which emphasizes the need of selfless service and also represents the spirit of democratic living. Through NSS, the youth learns to appreciate other people's point of view and to be thoughtful or kind to other things as other beings as well. The ideology of NSS is perfectly exemplified in this slogan, which emphasizes on the concept that everyone's welfare is highly reliant on the welfare of the society. Being a part of NSS unit of Jai Hind College will get you an experience which is completely in a different environment because there are activities like peace walk, cultural events, different social drives, interaction with people, celebration of the particular days, Prabhat rally, awareness through street plays, and many more activities which can help you be socially active and plus that way you can be responsible and show your duty towards the nation or the society. Coming to the RCJC club of our college, the Rotaract Club of Jai Hind College is a non-profit organization and is an integral part of the Rotaract District 3141. It is a youth wing of the renowned Rotary Club of Bombay. It is an extremely popular organization among schools and colleges in Mumbai for our inter-school and intercollegiate events. RCJC is a tightly knit community of like-minded youngsters working towards changing and shaping society as it focuses on projects and initiatives under avenues like community service, professional development, international service, entrepreneurship, and sports. Every year, the RCJC organizes 300 to 350 events, which includes all small scale, medium scale, and large scale events where students from all over Mumbai can participate. The president and the vice president of the current Rotaract Club of Jai Hind College are Khushi Shetty, the president, and Divyansh Juriani, the vice president. I would say being a part of NSS unit or the RCJC will be a completely different experience for you. It will mold your personality in a way which you could have never imagined. It will make you socially active. It will make you realize the love for your country, for your nation, and for your society, and also make you realize what your responsibilities and duties are for the world, for the nation, and for your society, and as well as for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. I think it was a crisp, concise, and well written introduction to these bodies to the students. And I'm sure they are all equally excited to join these and take the work that you all have been doing ahead. Students, before we wrap for the day, I would also like to place on record our appreciation for y'all as well in terms of joining these sessions and in interacting with the faculty members, and we know that offline too y'all have been having these sessions. We're just releasing an attendance form for y'all. Just a second. For today's session, please ensure that you fill it. Bhavna, just coming back to you. Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Dear students,
The
also please.
attendance. Yes. Just a second. I'll just pin it. Yes, Firdaus, please go ahead.
Yeah. Dear students, as all of you know, and Radhika ma'am have told you in the first class, you'll have to maintain journal entries for each of these sessions. And in the concluding session, we'll be collecting those journal entries. So keep them ready in a Word document. We'll be circulating a form in our concluding session, which will be after the Ganpati break. And during the session, we'll have to upload the journal, and we'll help you all how to go about the entire process for uploading your journals and everything. And also, Radhika ma'am would also add up few things. What are we expecting you from the concluding session? Over to you, Radhika.
Yes, please. So before I move to that, Bhavna, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in college. And thank you again for not just the introductory session, but today as well.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much,
Bhavna.
ma'am, for this
Thank you,
opportunity.
Bhavna.
Thank you so
Good to
much for
see you.
those, ma'am, Radhika, ma'am. Good to see you too,
Bye-bye.
ma'am, and all the very best to all the FIs here, and see you all in the college. Thank you, ma'am. Bye bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Bhavna. Okay, students. So we also have something interesting and exciting for y'all. During the Ganpati break, we will be circulating a form wherein if you have any poetry or anything that you would like us to show to all the FYs who are watching in, like if you're painting, if you're writing any poetry, you can submit those entries via Google form that we'll be circulating over the Ganpati break, and we will read those out, we will review those, and we will select and shortlist some entries and read those out, those select entries during the concluding session. So do look out for that form and submit your entry for a review, and we'll be more than happy. The more entries we have, we'll be more than happy to review those, and select entries will then be read out or shown during the concluding session. So do check your class groups, wherever, either on Telegram or on WhatsApp, and do check those for that Google form, and submit your entry if you would like it to be read or shown during the concluding session. Okay, so I repeat, there is a Google form that has been put up on the live chat box on your screens. You can just refresh your screen, and please ensure that you submit this and fill this and submit this form. Many of you had some trouble the last time, so we are keeping it open for the next 5 minutes. Please ensure that you submit it. Firdaus ma'am, maybe we can conclude the session,
Yeah.
and we'll close the form by 7:35 p.m.
Hello, students. Once again, on behalf of the entire SIP team in Jehan College, we thank you once again for attending these sessions and being such a patient audience for asking those questions and for everything. And we really look forward for your support even in the concluding session. As Radhika ma'am said, we'd be really happy to receive more and more entries. And please feel free to submit those entries and everything. And we'll be definitely taking all those into considerations. If you have any queries or doubt, you can definitely get in touch with us. So thank you once again for your support and for your cooperation and for being a very attentive audience to us. Thanks a lot, students, to you.
Thank you so much, students. We are ending the live broadcast. Please ensure you fill the attendance form in the next 5 minutes, and then it will be closed. And the attendance is for today's session. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you in college. Bye bye.
Thank you, students.